Alright, this is video number 1 of the Red Ranger build. This is basically just going to be a rundown of the mod list I'm using and the mod list of what you need to create this build. Let's start with the mods. Let's see here. Also, I'll have a list of the mods that I use and the mods that are needed for this build in the description below. I'll try to also have things divided out on the timeline once I figure out how to do that. Okay, unofficial Skyrim special edition patch. That is just bug fixes. I recommend that regardless of whether you can use this build or not. Apocalypse Magic of Skyrim. Not really using this. There's nothing in this for your build. I just have it for other builds. Unique Standing Stones of Skyrim, Andromeda. This one is used. This one basically modifies the standing stones in Skyrim to be a little bit more interesting. Summer Mist, Enchantments of Skyrim. This also makes the game more interesting, adds more variation to the enchantments in the game. I will be making use of some of these enchantments. It's not a dire part of the build, but it is part of the build. Thunderchild, Epic Shouts. This one I am not using for this build. Cheat Room, I use that for every build just to basically save myself time, effort. If you're doing an honest playthrough, even if you don't want to quote-unquote cheat, this will help you with things like, for instance, there are weapons in the game that if you find them too early, the game punishes you by giving you a weaker version of that weapon. Well, once I level up to the appropriate level to get the better weapon, instead of the game leveling the weapon up with you, it just leaves it the way it is. I use Cheat Room for things like that. Plus I use it to fix problems sometimes in the game. Sacrosanct, that's for vampires. That's not really got anything to do with this build. Apocalypse, Ordinator Compatibility. It's just a compatibility patch. Ordinator Perks of Skyrim. Yes, absolutely used for this build. Adds 469 new perks. Winter Sun, Faiths of Skyrim. That is definitely used for this build, yes. Imperious Races of Skyrim. That is also used for this build. Alternate Start, Live Another Life. I use that pretty much in every build. So yes, it is used in this one. Triumvirate, Mage Archetypes. That I am not using for this build. My character will not be using any kind of magic in any way. Growl, Werebeasts of Skyrim. That is not used in this build. 50% more perk points. I am simply using that to facilitate better speed and leveling, because I don't want this video series to get out of hand with like, hey, watch episode 293 to check out this part. I'd rather get this accomplished in maybe 10 episodes. We'll try it, see how it works. 20% more perk points. That just gives you an extra perk point every 5 levels. This one was an extra perk point every 2 levels. Diverse Dragons Collection. Not necessary. I use it but I like it. And I like it, but it's not necessary. The perk point ones for you won't be necessary either. Those are no's on whether they're necessary. Honestly, you can make a build like I'm making with vanilla. It just wouldn't be nearly as interesting. You would just have to pretend. You'd have to do a lot of imagining of things in your head as opposed to just seeing them on the screen. Okay, this is unique uniques. This is for, I believe it's for weaponry modeling. I haven't really seen it in action exactly. Maybe it's in the wrong spot in my load list, I don't know. Not necessary. Cloaks and capes, also not necessary for this build. Relationship dialogue overhaul, not necessary for this build. Daedric cloaks and divine cloaks, those are not necessary for this build. Cloaks of Skyrim, not necessary for this build. I have a lot of cloak mods, don't I? The Miracle of Flight, not necessary for this build. Wearable lanterns, it's not necessary, but I do use a wearable lantern with this character of a certain style because I believe it goes with their outdoor nature. Skill up cheat items. Oh, this is for the ring. Okay. This is not necessary. What I'm going to be using on this, out of this mod, is the ring that basically it increases your skill learning by 10x, 10 times. I am only going to be using that when my character is quote unquote. I don't even know if I'm going to be using that, to be honest with you. I wish he had a ring in this mod that was a 2x or a 3x, because that would be a lot more friendly. If you wear the 10x, you level up so fast. Even just the 10x. I can't even imagine that, what, 1 million x that's on the screen there? Anyhow, I may or may not be using that depending on how it goes. Arcanum, a new age of magic, not necessary. 2021 Obsidian Weathers and Seasons, not necessary but nice. Hammerfell Bow by Farinelli. I absolutely, this is definitely part of it. Obviously you could do it without it, you could just use any other bow, but this bow is for a Redguard Ranger, and that's what this build is based off of. The Red Ranger. Anyhow, that one, yes, that is part of it. Graphics pack is just improved graphics, not necessary. Warmonger Armory. I think this is part of it. Hold on, let me look down here. Yes. Down here, I'll put it. Okay. At the very top on the description, you see Sand Assassin, crafted under leather section. Okay, that is the set of armor the Ranger's gonna wear. So yes, this is part of it. And like I say, any of these that I say are part of it, obviously you could do without if you have to. It's just not as interesting, in my opinion. At Your Own Pace is not part of it exactly. It's interesting, you should check it out. Perk points at skill levels 50, 75, and 100. This just helps my leveling and my perk point acquisition. Not necessary for the build. Instincts. Animal taming in Skyrim. Um, Depending on what animal I go with, will determine whether this is necessary or not. I know that's not really helpful to you right now. Instincts is very good. Um, it's a more interesting means of taming animals. I don't know exactly. I guess it just depends on what pet you want. Ideally, red guards, from what I looked up of their lore, there's a lot of large insect type animals in their areas. Um, so I kind of made that my primary goal, was to get an insect type character. Secondary seems to be lizards, and third seems to be cats of some sort. If I'm wrong on that, let me know what you think about that. But Instinct is a very good mod, and I'm going to have it on here just in case. Honestly, Ordinator, the perk patch overhaul way up there that I said definitely was part of this, that will also help you acquire an appropriate pet for your Redguard Ranger. But this just may expand your options. So, yes and no. This one, get immersive cheats. I just have this for quality of life improvements. For instance, if you see mammoth skulls with tusks, and you think, why can't I pick up the mammoth tusk? It's right there. I could go sell it. Well, this lets you do that. This lets you do things such as you can use the Lunar Forge to make lunar weapons. You can loot wood piles. I remember, yeah, loot wood take wood from wood piles. Along, sometimes you find alchemy ingredients in there. Yeah, says that there. Anyhow, just quality of life improvements, not necessary. Weapons of the third era, not necessary. Fun, but not necessary. Summer Mist guaranteed locations. I have this turned on just to help me to acquire some of the enchantments from the Summer Mist mod that adds new enchantments to the game. The reason I say that is you may want a certain enchantment for your weapon or your boots, and waiting around until you eventually find something with that enchantment could take so ridiculously long. I'm not saying it's not worth it, but for the purpose of creating a build, I don't want to sit there and reload vendors until on my 475th load I find the enchantment I want. This helps by giving me a guaranteed location of finding that enchantment. Now, these locations aren't always easy to get to or early in the game, so it will still be part of the journey, but at least I have a place to get it from, guaranteed. Swift Kingdom weapon and armors. That is... it does a lot for the game. But if I look at it here, it provides bandolier bags, which can also be used with there's another mod for bandoliers that's just standalone. It's the same exact mod that's in this compilation. I will be using the bandolier one. Not really necessary, but I'm going to say helpful. And it does make some things look more interesting. So I'm using it for this build, but it's not necessary. Oh, and that was all of them. Alright. Let's go back, get out of here, and here we have the Red Ranger. Alright, in the next video we will be entering the game.